Okay, Peter, it's Kerry v Galway, Crow Park, 3:30 this Sunday. Excitement is building down the kingdom, as I'm sure it is up the west. For you, what big questions do Kerry need to answer to finally win this All Ireland after an 8-year gap?
Well, I think they answered all the key questions against Dublin, because a lot of people, and maybe yourself included, felt that Kerry needed to be going into the Dublin game in the home stretch in the last 5-10 minutes well ahead, because if it was a real tight game, a lot of pundits expected Dublin to come through. It was a real tight game. The gun was very much put to Kerry's head, and they came up with the goods. They held firm, and they showed grit when they had to, and they showed composure to get over the line. So I think that's what's required again against Galway. I do think Galway will run them tight. The main difference between this game and the semi-final to me is, you've rightly said, excitement is building in the kingdom, and a lot of people down in Kerry are really expecting this team to win the All-Ireland now, to beat Galway. I was down in Kerry before the Dublin game, and I was amazed at, maybe not that they weren't confident, but the supporters were very wary of Dublin. There definitely wasn't
10
that
years of
confidence.
pain, Peter, 10 years of pain.
Well, maybe that, but the difference now, Kieran, is that expectancy is very much there, whereas maybe not against, and the hype, it was low key before the Dublin game, whereas now I think there's very much a lot expected of them, and if they can produce the type of football that they played in the first 20 minutes, I don't think anybody can live with them. But Dublin did claw their way back, and after a brilliant 20 minutes, I think for the rest of the game, Kerry only scored 8 points from 20 minutes on. That's a long, it's a long period of football to be scoring so little with the quality of players they have. So that will give some hope to Galway, I'm sure.
I think playing up into the breeze, and the way the game was going, and Kerry were certainly under the cash. I think all them things led into it, but certainly seemed when they were playing downhill with the breeze into the Canavan goal, into the more, we'll say, the easier goal to score, and for most kickers of the ball. I thought their forward play was really good early on, but them early balls, they were into one-on-ones, two-on-twos. For me, I don't see Galway allowing that happen. What do you think they're going to do, we'll say, with that side of the game?
Absolutely, you're dead right. But the thing about it is, a number of those kick passes, for example, the goal that Kerry got, it came direct from a kick out. And as soon as David Moran won the ball, he delivered it in, and there's one-on-one. So Galway are very aggressive, as you know, on the opposition kick out. So I do believe there's going to be a chance if Kerry kick it long and win it out there, then that opportunity is still there. And especially when you have someone of the quality when it comes to kicking the ball of David Moran, his first 5 possessions he got against Dublin, they were all he kicked all of them. That's what he likes to do as soon as he gets the ball. So Galway, as we know, want to play with a double sweeper. They want to get the 2 men sitting in as quickly as possible. So if Kerry are slow in their build-up play, then that's what's going to happen. You're not going to be able to kick the ball in. But I think there will be, maybe off Galway's kickouts, and certainly off their own, if they win it, look up and get it in early, then there is a chance to cause havoc that way.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be definitely interesting to see what way they set up and what they do on kickouts, etc.
Absolutely, and you will know yourself from being with Armagh that they have to. You have to work very hard on your own kick out to get it out. We witnessed against Derry how they pushed up 4 at the start. The short kick out was still getting away, and they pushed up 5, and forcing Derry to kick it out 50-50. But the only danger is from a Kerry point of view, if they do that and Kerry win it, then they're leaving themselves exposed. So that's the dilemma facing Porrick Joyce. I think I'll be interested to hear your thoughts after playing against them.
Yeah.
But I think that they will pick and choose their moments when to push up. I don't think they'll do it with every kick out, but they'll target a few in the first half where they will be aggressive. But something tells me that they may change tact for this game and they may allow Kerry more short kickouts or play a bit safer in order to get men back in front of David Clifford.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they'll definitely look at something. I don't think they'll go with a man-to-man press because I think we all saw against Dublin when you've got the speeded Gavin White, Bruno Begliach, Tom Sullivan in your defence. If you go man to man and they come into that punch like they did late on against Dublin, they seem to get every kick out of the way. But I would be looking from Galway point of view. I would say that they will, as you rightly say, they'll pick and choose. They'll give up kickouts maybe after a miss to allow themselves to get back and to not allow that early ball, especially early on. I think Galway are going to go seriously defensive early on. They're going to try and make Kerry sweat a bit. It's given for a kind of a wet, muggy day, a slippy ball, and that's what they'll be kind of hanging on to. But when they get into their press, as I think they will push 4 or 5 in. And if you look at Shane Ryan, he was really good late on in the game the last day, but early on in the game, he was patchy enough, Peter, when he went long. And I would say that's probably a huge thing that Galway will look at. Can we force this guy long? And can we turn it into a battlefield out there? And then it's about who's up for the fight more. And I think
But
both
the only
teams go on.
yeah the only thing there is that against Derry, Derry only had one real target, Conor Glass in
Yeah,
the middle sector, whereas with Kerry you have Jack Barry. You have David Moore and Damon O'Connor, who will probably be wing half forward again and coming into the middle. So he's a choice of three brilliant fetchers, which Galway didn't have that problem against Derry.
yeah, but I also think as a contrast to that, I think you have Galway have serious size in that back line of the press if they get into it. If you talk about Matty Tierney out there, Patrick Kelly, Conroy's well able to fetch. McDade is playing out of his skin out there, so they have a lot of big bodies on that back line, and they're really aggressive on the ball. They're actually good fielders, all of them as well. They can all get off the ground and fetch it. So I think, but it's just about how they get that balance right. Because you are right. If David Moran catches one against that press and lands, he's got a 60-yard bomb on the outside of the right boot that will pick out the forward he wants to pick out. And if you've got David Clifford or a Paul Ganey or a Sean O'Shea inside there, that's definitely going to be a big risk. But fortune favours the brave, I would say, in a big game. And I think if Galway are to win this, they need to have that type of a game where they go for it and things come off and they get 9 out of 10s out of these guys who, against Derry, if you look at the load that was carried, it was mainly Comer. He carried all the load, and I would say against Armagh, the quarter final, you'd McDade with 1-1, Johnny Heaney had 1-1, Tierney had 1-2. They got great
Finally.
numbers out of those players, and I think they need that type of a performance. I would say off of those guys if they're to go win this All Ireland.
The the subject of Shane Walsh, of course, there's no doubt about it. Himself and Clifford are the most talented players, the most skillful players that will be on view this Sunday. Armagh and Derry went two different ways to marking Shane Walsh. Um, James Morgan was man to man, but was happy when Walsh went deeper or to the periphery out on the sidelines. Morgan stayed in and was giving him, some stages 10, 15 metres,
Mm-hmm.
whereas Derry's tactic was man to man. McCluskey literally followed him everywhere, wherever Walsh went. What do you see Kerry doing on Sunday, and who's going to be tasked with that?
Yeah, look, it's a big call, but I think in big games, Kerry have always gone to Tom O'Sullivan to do this type of a man marking job. And even though McCluskey did a great job and he really kind of tagged them as much as he could, he bombed forward a lot. But I don't think he ever, had much interest in scoring. Whereas I think what Shane Walsh will have to be wary of with Tom Sullivan is Tom's going to fly forward because he's got great legs, he's got great speed, but he's also got a great left foot, and he will try and go up there and score and cause a bit of havoc. So that's going to be a big battle. And if Shane Walsh can figure out a way to maybe let Comer go out and be that link man at times and let him in right in front of the D, that might be a place where he would kind of possibly could try and get more joy off of Tom, because he's physically strong, he's as quick as Tom, he's a good ball winner. And once he has it in his hands, if he's anyway one on one, he's dangerous because he's not just quick, but he's elusive, he's both footed, he's got tremendous balance. So that's going to be an absolute massive, massive battle. And I think the other one is, for me, is very important around the middle of the field. I think it's Jack Barry going toe to toe with Killian McDade, running with him, trying to outrun him, trying to put him off the ball, trying to be strong and physical and aggressive and show that bit of experience that he would have. And then you've David Moore and Paul Conroy, two of the finest midfielders in the game over the last 10, 15 years. And, that's going to be, they both can fetch ball, they're both good kickers, they can both score. So I think that battle is going to be a huge bearing on who wins the game, because it's, if Paul Conroy catches the ball 3 times or David Moran catches it 4 times, there's a 7 possession swing in that for one team over the other. So what you could do, the damage that both teams have up front, that could cause a big difference. And what about for you? What do Galway do with that inside Kerry line? Who's going to pick them up? Who's going to go up
Well,
and Paddy Clifford?
yeah, the two Cliffords are key, and I know David gets so much of the credit and the plaudits, but I thought Paddy Clifford put on an exhibition of centre half forward play against Dublin. He did everything that you would want from a centre half forward.
Yeah,
He was a perfect link man, and that every time he wins it, around the middle of the pitch, the first thing he does is to look up, and he delivers quality ball inside. He was back foraging, back involved in turnovers, back in his own half back line. He was winning his own kickouts. He was options for his own kickouts, and most importantly, as a centre half forward, he was getting up and getting scores himself. So it was just a first class, and there's various centre half forwards around the country who have some of those qualities, but they don't appear to have all of them together. This man does, and I thought when the chips were down in the second half in particular, he really stood up. He was immense. So he needs to be man marked. So I wouldn't be surprised if they put Liam Silk on him. Some would suggest that Liam Silk is their best man marker and that he could be marking David Clifford, but I would be concerned that maybe he mightn't just have the physicality or the height, and Kerry are happy to play long ball in there. So I would imagine Silk will go on Paddy Clifford and Sean Kelly will stay on David, and that leaves John Daly possibly picking up Sean O'Shea, because Sean plays a bit further out and in front of David as well. The only problem with that, if it does happen, I'd imagine Shawnee could play deeper to goal, because John would be happier as a centre half back and pushing
yeah.
forward. I don't think he'd be happy, as a full back or as a cornerback in marking Sean O'Shea. But in terms of the matchups, those are the key matchups from a Galway point of view, and that's the way I see them going.
And like, the matchups are key for obviously every team going into a game, but from what I've seen of Galway since that league final, since that last to Roscommon, is it's an all-in, it's a team ethos. They switch over, they switch at times, at the right time when players are trying to rub screen off each other. They're really good at talking through that. They've got Malai sitting in the left side of the D where the meets at 21, kind of covering off all that area of the pitch. So, and the bodies they get around the ball and the turnovers that they got against Derry when Derry tried to run at them late on. And to be honest, a lot of teams this year have run into numerous Galway men. But Kerry up the other end are showing a bit of that um, as well. If you look at the game against Dublin late on, the amount of turnovers that they got to get the ball, and Paddy Clifford was involved in it, but real team tackling. And I know your man, Paddy Talley, is probably getting a lot of deserved credit for that. But I think both teams have come on massively this year on the defensive side of the ball.
Absolutely, and you look at Kerry, the main source of their scores against Dublin was turnovers,
Turnover ball,
and
yeah.
you wouldn't always have said that about Kerry. Yes, their own kickout, they got a lot of scores from their own kickout as well, but the amount of turnovers that they had, and the amount of them around the D, the edge of the D, and people were saying Dublin had an off day in their shooting. A lot of their shots were under pressure, and absolutely you've got to give Kerry credit. From a Galway point of view, teams are getting a lot of shots away from them at them as well. So even though they have a lot of players back, Pádraig Joyce maybe will be worried about that. It'll be interesting to see if Kerry attempt to exploit the two players that you mentioned who play the double sweeper, Kieran Malloy and Dylan McHugh.
Yeah.
And a number of games, their half forwards have been drifting out and playing around the middle, and they're not real threats. And maybe they would see if it's Dermot O'Connor and Stephen O'Brien, they could say the same. They'd be happy to see, let them on the ball, that they're not going to hurt them. So Kerry may decide to put, someone more prolific maybe on them, so that Malloy can't just sit back and McHugh can't sit back. So look, that is going to be an interesting take to see what they do there.
That's where Johnny Heaney and Patrick Kelly have been massive for them this year too. Is coming back to mark those players, and Kelly is probably perfect to come back on a Dermot O'Connor who may start at wing forward. But Johnny Heaney as well, could see him coming back. Maybe he'd go out and pick Sean O'Shea and allow John Daly maybe to try and sit, because that's more his game. I would say is that type of a centre back, more so than trying to follow Sean O'Shea. For Kerry, the matchups are the middle of the field is the big one for me, because I think at the back, they mostly take care of themselves. Like as we spoke about earlier on, Tom will go pick Shane Walsh, Jason Foley will be on Damien Comer, and Graham O'Sullivan will be on Rob Finnerty. And I would say Graham will try and take Rob up the pitch. Jason Foley, who has had a great year, even in the game above, when Kerry played Armagh in the athletic grounds, he did a good job that day. Real looked like he grew in stature, looked like he grew in physicality over the winter, because he went toe to toe with Rian and didn't come out short in any of the physical exchanges. So like that was a huge thing for him, and I think he'll try and do similar to Damien Comer. I would say that's big. The one that's slightly iffy for me on Kerry is Tadhg Morley, who has been outstanding all year. Real leadership, organising everyone around him. But he's on Matthew Tierney, and if he's going to sit back and kind of sweep and protect the times, Matthew Tierney is able to kick points. He's able to go down the middle. He's very athletic. He's rangy. He gets the ball away from people, and that might be an area where they might look to get him on the ball a lot if they're going to try and hold Tadhg as that kind of sitting six. So and Gavin White, I think he might be playing. There's rumours around that he might be playing now. But whether he does or not, it's interesting, because if he doesn't, do you go with a Dermot O'Connor back there to go with a bit of a height to mark a Patrick Kelly at wing forward, or do you go with Paul Murphy, who will sit in with Tadhg Morley, do a really good job, pick out good passes, be really controlled on the ball? So they're obviously, they're the questions Kerry will have to answer. And I think they'll be really looking forward to it. But I think the game is actually going to pivot on how Kerry handle the first 15, 20 minutes, when Galway, I think, will get so many men behind the ball and say to Kerry, come on now, let's see, can you break us down? Because we know if we do what Mayo did in the league final, or Dublin the last day, if you give Clifford and these fellas space up front, and Paul Ganey, who didn't have a great day the last day, and you'd be expecting a big game out of him in the final, if you give players of that kind of class space up the pitch, you're in for a long day. So, like, I would say Galway earlier are going to say, okay, let's see, can you break this down now, and we'll see what they're made of. And Kerry, to be honest, should be able to, Peter, because they've been probably playing against a good bit of it in training with the work that Paddy Tally will be working on, the defensive structure that Kerry have. So they should have the patience required to try and break it down.
Yeah, they should have, but they haven't played teams who have been really defensive. And I agree with you. If it's a shootout, Kerry win, and they win, at their ease. So it's definitely in Galway's interest to make it defensive. That they have been playing that style of football all year. They know what they're about, and they've shown again. Armagh in particular, talk about resilience and the way they kept at it. It didn't look good going into extra time. So I'd agree with you that the longer it goes on and it stays close, it's very much it's giving Galway a chance. The only thing is, I'm not convinced that they have a stronger bench than than Kerry. I still think Kerry shade that side of things. Killian Spillane will make a difference. Darragh Moynihan came on, made a difference, scored a point. Paul Murphy made a massive difference when he came on. So I would say the bench still, to me, is very much in favour of Kerry. The last point when it comes to tactics, if Armagh had started kicking the ball in longer, a bit earlier, you would be preparing for an All-Ireland final now, maybe instead of Galway. Can you see Kerry doing that at any stage, whereby it's route one and edge of the square stuff to really put pressure on the goalkeeper?
Yeah, I think they will definitely have to kind of look at that option, I would say. But it's just about the timing of Kerry doing it, because if the game is going to go somewhat like we think it may, from what you're saying and what I'm saying, is Galway will sit early and try and take away those options. They're not going to put loads of ball in if there's loads of Galway players back. That's the facts of it. I think winning long kickouts. So if Kerry are forced long and they win it, I would turn then and look to get one or two in. And obviously, if you catch the opposition's kick out and bang it straight back in and tap from, you've got, they're the opportunities to look to go long. Gainey's brilliant over his head. I can see them pushing Shawnee O'Shea inside at times with David Clifford. They're all well able to win ball over their head. So why not for Kerry look at it? Because it's going to be such a controlled, measured approach for so much of the game, because that's the way Galway will want it. When you get your opportunities from long kickouts or high balls, you have to look to take it, because it won't come that often. So we saw what the long ball did the last day. We saw what it did in the Armagh game when we were chasing the game, fellas chasing in the ball, being positive, getting off the inside line. If Kerry can approach that when they get the opportunity to do so, there's no reason it can't pay benefits. It's like the goal against Dublin the last day. Was it a great ball? No. Was it a great catch inside? No. But what it was a competing side and guys crashing in off the ball. Shawnee O'Shea has it. Next thing, the ball's in the back of the net. Kerry are leading 1-1 to no score. Momentum is firmly on their side. The Kerry crowd are up and roaring, up and going behind them. So that's the positives with looking to go for it. But you have to be measured with it. It has to be an understanding with the team when it's going to happen. Why are we doing it? And what do we need? Not just off the guy kicking it, off the guy catching it. Is who's getting around the drop zone of the ball. So it's not a case of Sean Kelly jumping up and boxing it and three Galway fellas picking it up and sweeping, and away they go. That's what they would love. And I think they'll try everything to stop that, especially early on.
Right, so much are Kerry going to win by, Kieran?
I think the point you made a minute ago is very valid. I think it'll be really tight up to 60 minutes. I think Kerry will bring on the likes of Killian Spillane, the likes of Adrian Spillane, Darragh Moynihan, Joe O'Connor, my own clubman from Austin Stacks, who came on the last day. I could see him having an impact because of his strength and power. And I think that bench with Killian not scoring massively, with Tony Brosnan there as well, those types of guys against the defensive team later on could pop over. All they need is an inch of space, pop it over the bar. So maybe Kerry by 2 or 3. What do you think?
My head's telling me that too, absolutely. But the closer we're getting to the game, I'm starting to think Galway's Galway when it comes to All-Ireland finals.
I don't like when you start talking like this, Peter.
Well, they come and they'll puff their chest out, as they always do. Yeah. And just look back at the recent All-Ireland finals that they have been in, and they've come in under the radar. And players like Jav Fallon, Michael Donlan, Sean O'Depere, they played their best football in Croke Park in All-Ireland finals. So can Galway do that? Absolutely. Can Shane Walsh have the game of his life, end up getting man of the match and Galway win? He could, absolutely. But it will take that. It will take everything. Damien Comer, we know, is going to have a good game. He's been very consistent throughout. But I still think, my head's telling me, Kerry have too many options. Their kickouts have been very good. They can go long, and when they needed to go short against Dublin, they were brave enough to do that. They're defensively strong, and up front they've quality, and they've got the best footballer in the country at the minute, if not the best footballer that's ever played Gaelic football. So it's inevitable, unless he gets injured, he's going to have a massive say in the final. So it's going to be tight, but yeah, I think Kerry's going to take it home.
All right. Thanks a million, Peter. We'll leave it there.
See you Sunday.
See you Sunday, bud.